everybody, welcome back. If this is your first time to the channel, my name is Rich, and this is Corvette Posse, and today we're going to be working on the C6 project car. So, like I said, I bought the project car a month and a half ago, and one of the first things I noticed was the shocks. The ride was just pretty bad. Shock, sway bar, a lot of body roll. So we have bought the Billstein shocks, and I've got some Johnny O'Connell sway bars. These things are huge. So we are going to be working on the C6 today and get this thing rolling so I can actually hit the corners and hit the track with it and not feel like it's driving like a big old Cadillac. So we're going to get this thing jacked up, and we'll show you the process of getting the shocks installed, sway bars installed. We'll walk through the whole thing, and yep, we'll get on that. So we'll get the car jacked up and we'll get back to it. Okay, so we got the wheel off, and what you have to do on the driver's side, you have to remove this overflow tank here to be able to get down to this. So there's a flat spot on top of the shock. You should be able to secure that and use a ratcheting wrench. I think it was a wrench. Back over. Okay, so when you get down here, you get this reservoir out of the way. You get down here, there's a flat spot on here, so you have to be able to secure that flat spot so it'll sit and spin. And just use a 15mm wrench to take the nut off. And we'll go ahead and get the bottom piece off and get the shock out. Okay, so down here there's a couple bolts. We got this one out already. So there are a couple of 13-inch bolts that come out. So it comes from the bottom up. So we got one there, and we got another one back there to take off, and we'll be able to get ready to get this shock taken out. Okay, so we finally got this this shock out, and it is a job to say the least. Clearly don't have the right tools, but in true innovative fashion, we got it done. So what we had to do is we had to compress the top of the shock, get it down, and then just make it work out. You can see down there is seated down there. It was work, but finally got it out. It was not easy. So we'll get the new shock in and get on the other side. Alright, so we're getting ready to install the new shocks, and one thing we did to kind of help it, make it be a little easier to get that thing in and out of the space, was we compressed the new shock and then zip tied it together. So we'll get that up in the space and get holes lined up and cut the zip tie off, and that should, when it decompresses or releases, it'll come back out and be ready to go. Okay, so we got the new shock in. A bit of a problem down at the bottom trying to get the angle to line up. We had to jack up the subframe a little bit, but we were able to get that in and then get the shock up here. So now what we'll do is we'll get the overflow tank back on, and we will hit the driver's or the passenger side. Okay, so one thing we found as we're getting out the other side with the same problem is getting the old shock compressed and getting out of there. So what we did is we actually ended up zip tying the old shock as well. So we got it compressed down enough, got it zip tied, and that was able to make it a lot easier to get off. So now we'll go ahead, just like we did on the driver's side, get the other shock put in there, and we'll button this up. Okay, so we're here taking the rear shocks off. On the rear shocks, down below down here, there's a bolt. This guy right here, it's 24mm on either side. Take that off, and then up there at the top of the shock mount, if you can see that, is 12mm. Pop, 13mm, pop that off, and then we'll get these shocks out. Okay, so we got the rear shock off, same as the front. Just take it, compress it down, and zip tie it to keep the compression on it, and it just comes right out. It's a little twist and it comes right out. So that's the trick, zip ties. Okay, so while we're in here, we're going to go ahead and lower the rear of the car. The front's fine. We're going to lower the rear of the car so it levels out about a ½ inch. So what you've got is you got this bolt right here, and you just take it out counterclockwise, and we'll lower it down about a ½ inch, and then that'll take care of the lowering piece of it. Then we'll get this shock put back in. Okay, so we have to take the shock apart. You have to reuse the mount, the top mount. So we're taking this top screw off, and we'll get that put back on the new shock. Got the top mount, shock mount off the old shock, put in the new one. So it's just literally a Allen wrench, 17mm socket, or a ratcheting wrench, what I got. Put it on the other way. And we'll take this and we'll get it compressed, put zip ties on it, and get it put up in the shock well. That good. Okay, so we got the shocks done. Got those all put in. Now on the sway bars, we could not do the sway bars. The end links did not come in, so I'm trying to get those end links in. So we'll go ahead and do the sway bars after the fact, but I'll video that separately. So we'll get the shocks in. We could not lower it. When we got it on the driver's side, that bolt was stripped out, so we're gonna have to go order some new lowering bolts to get those replaced. So we did not lower it. So shocks are done. It's a chore. Best done with 2 people. It makes it the easiest, but certainly not that difficult. But wasn't super easy. So what we're gonna do now is we got the tires off, I'm gonna go ahead and put on these mud flaps, rear mud flaps. So let's get those put on there. So what we gotta do is we gotta mark it. We'll get up there, we'll mark it on the holes, mark the holes, drill them on the inner fender liner here. Then we got the push tabs, and we'll get those put on. So we'll show you that when we get that put on. Yep, so we just set it up there, and I used a silver Sharpie to mark the holes. Just drill in the holes and we'll get them punched in.
Get it all the way up.
Okay, so we finally got the sway bars in, or I guess the end links. I had the sway bars, but I was missing this very important piece, which is the end links. So we got these in. So what I've done is I've taken the tires off, and what we'll do is get in here. Lighting's bad. Take the bottoms of the end links off. There's a couple bolts up there. We got to take these brackets here, and we'll get that off. I'll compare the stock to these Johnny O'Connell's, and then we'll get this thing hooked up. Okay, so here we are, and I'm going to take off this lower bolt from this end link or whatever it is. You can set right there. Now what you've got is this little flat thing and then the nut, and it spins on there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take sorry, I'm trying to get the light in there so we'll see what's going on. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a 19 millimeter wrench, put that on the nut, and then I'll take an 8 millimeter socket and put it on there to hold that center section so it doesn't spin in there, and I'll be able to get that off. Okay, so with this one here, we got this bracket that needs to come off, so this one right here. So if I can hand up there. So right there, so we got this bolt or this nut and this nut to take off, or bolt to take off. So those are 1/2 inch. So we'll get those out, and then we'll do the same on the driver's side. Okay, so we got the stock sway bar off. You can see that there, and then the right next to Johnny O'Connell. So it's quite a bit bigger than the stock one. This was a C51 car, so it's a little thicker than what you find on the base car. So we'll go ahead and get the bushings transferred over. Get the end links put on, and brackets and all kind of stuff, and we'll get this baby back installed. But quite a difference. I mean, really, it's quite a bit beefier, so I'm anxious to get these guys on. Okay, so we got the sway bar in, got the end links on, everything's all set, so I'm going to button that up. Torque specs on the bushing side was 48 pound-feet on this guy, since this is a non-Z06 car. And then on the end links, it'll be 50 pounds here, so we'll get that put up. Now, one thing on these end links, they are adjustable, and so I'm gonna have to go out and get the car kind of set up and figure out where it's loose, where it's tight. So what I'm doing, just as a starting point on these, on the fronts and the rears, is I'm going to set these end links about like right here. So I have just a few threads hanging out when you get the locking bolt tightened up there. I have absolutely no idea what the adjustment up and down will do, but we'll take this thing, get it at least installed, get it hooked up, and then I'll play with that and see where we need to go from there. And now we're gonna head to the rear, get that fixed up. Okay, so here we are on the back, and we got this control arm to take off here, and then I got to take the brackets off here. Oops, the brackets off here. But it looks like all I need to do is take that nut off, because that bolt's actually holding on the lower control arm, so we do not want to be removing that. So we'll go ahead and take this this guy off and see what it's going to take to get the new one on. Okay, so we got the stock rear sway bar off. Obviously that's the black one, they're a little skinnier. This Johnny O'Connell one's quite a bit thicker, as you expect. So we'll go ahead and get this on. What it took to get that off was actually 18mm socket and a 15mm wrench to get those pieces off of get the brackets off the sway bar. So, get the bushing brackets off. So we'll go ahead and get this transferred over. I'll get the end links put on, and we'll get this buttoned up. Okay, so I got the end links put on, and again I left about the nuts width of thread. Oops, get the camera up there. Left about the nuts with the thread up there so we can figure out the adjustment later. So I got this in here loose, so we'll go ahead and get the sway bar put in and button this bad boy up. Okay, so we got this all set up. What I did is, per the instructions, I went ahead, like I said, I left this a little slack into this guy here. I'm not sure how we're going to adjust that yet. I went ahead and put this in the middle hole. There's adjustment. Actually, there's 3 holes here, so I'm not sure which one of them loosens it, one of them tightens it up. So what I'm gonna have to do is go out and find a big parking lot that I can go out and see what the car's doing. Is it loose up front, or is it plowing up front, or is it loose in the rear, tight in the rear, whatever it is. And then that's how we'll do the adjustments here. And I'm guessing the adjustments there, I'm gonna have to call AFE and see exactly how you adjust that and what the adjustments are there, but I'm guessing that's pretty much how it is. Like I said, not a bad job. We'll go out, like I said, I'll get this thing buttoned up, get everything torqued up. Same torque specs. I forgot what they were. I think it was 60 on this guy and 48 up here on the bushing bracket. I'll double check that for sure. I can't remember. We'll get this thing all buttoned up, tires back on, and we'll take us out for a spin and see what we think. Okay, here we go. Got everything all buttoned up. I got the sway bar on. This right here, the bushing, torque that right there, the bushing, torque that to 50 pounds, and the end link right here, 48 pounds, and we are good to go. We'll get the tires back on, and I'll take this thing for a rip and see what it feels like. Okay, so here we are. Got the sway bars on, got the shocks on earlier, but got the sway bars on, and we're out taking it for a quick drive. Want to give everybody an honest opinion of what we think of the Billstein shocks and the Johnny O'Connell sway bars. So who better than somebody who's going to give us a truly honest opinion? That would be my wife. So what we're going to do is I'm going to talk about the shocks, tell her what we got, and we'll kind of go for a ride. We'll get her opinion on how it feels. Now, she has not been in the car since we changed the shocks, obviously the sway bar, since that was just done. So she'll give us an honest opinion. Truly, I'm not getting paid by Billstein or Johnny O'Connell or AFE, and probably after this I won't anyway. So we'll certainly give you an honest opinion. So, what do you think so far? So what we have is we have Billstein shocks, or the B8 or the sport versions that are made for the stiffer suspension or lowered cars, and then these are the Johnny O'Connell sway bars. So these are stiffer sway bars. This was a C51 car, so obviously the sway bars were stiff to begin with, but these were actually stiffer than the Z06 sway bars, so they're a little thicker than that. So we've gone a couple blocks. What do you think so far?
You can definitely tell they're stiff.
Is it like stiff? Like, now we obviously haven't done a 9-hour trip in it yet, but
there will be no 9-hour trip in this.
What?
No.
Okay, so we're gonna go out, and
we haven't hit any real bumps or anything either.
So we're gonna go out. We're gonna get out of here, get on the highway for just do a little stint on the highway. Can't really go hit any curvy roads because it's getting late in the day and it's a little cool. I don't think the tires warm up enough to be able to really hit it hard. And I don't have this thing dialed in yet, so we'll go hit this on the highway and get her thoughts after a bit. stiffer with these shocks. Obviously haven't hit any real hard, fast curves, but it does feel like it certainly helped with the body roll. Shocks are stiffer, feels more planted for sure. What are your thoughts?
It's not a bad ride. It's good.
Okay, so one thing I'm gonna have to do, now that I've changed all this out, the shocks, everything else, I've got to go and get the alignment checked on and see how that's, see if that affected the alignment. Also, we'll drive a little bit, get some miles on, I'll get the alignment checked on it. So we'll go take this thing for a little bit of cruise, and we'll get back to you and see what I think. Okay, so we did find a couple curves. This does feel a lot better. I mean, it makes a huge difference. Can't wait to get this thing out on the curvy roads when the weather warms up, and then on a track for sure. So we're gonna head back, try to find the interstate from here somewhere, and head back into town. And the interstate is coming up. Okay, so thanks to my wife for going out and giving her honest review. I was actually a little surprised that she didn't think it was too stiff, because it's pretty stiff. But I'll tell you what, it was made a huge difference. I mean, the feel of the car, I know it's a subjective thing, but the steering felt tighter. The body roll was gone, a little stiff, but it just felt really planted around curves, and when we hit some bumps, hit a few expansion joints in those curves, and the thing felt pretty tight. So obviously, I think it was a big improvement over stock. Definitely something that's not terribly easy to do, but it's not very hard either. I mean, just take some patience. Like I said, like you see with the shocks, there was a couple people makes a big difference. Having two sets of hands in there. Sway bars did it by myself. Would have been easier with two people, but still was able to manage it without a problem. So not a terrible job. Well worth it. And hope you enjoyed the video. If you find it informative, and if you like the video, please give us a big thumbs up. Hit that subscribe button up there, and we'll have more to follow, because I got the Corvette seats that are going in, so we got a video on that coming up, and then hopefully we'll get some decent weather and I can actually get this thing A, out on some mountain roads, and B, to a track sometime soon. So thanks, and we will talk to you soon.